This is PWF Empire Live.
It's the best thing going today.
The best insight and analysis on the hottest topics in the world of wrestling happens here. From storylines and news to rumors and reviews, we've got the action covered from bell to bell.
Believe that.
Presented by PWFempire.com with your hosts,
Steven,
Evan Medina, and J-Dub.
do I have everybody's attention now?
The match starts now.
PWF Empire is live. Thank you all for tuning in tonight. I am Jay, and I'm joined on the hosting panel by Steven. What's up?
Steven, that's right. Yeah.
With authority. That's what I'm talking about. We got a great show planned for you guys tonight. We have the return of Push Repackage release. And when I tell you that this is a big one, this is a... I probably shouldn't admit this, but my mind still isn't made up yet. So we'll see how things go as the night rolls on. But we got a lot of great stuff to discuss. In addition to Push Repackage release, we have the Night of Challengers in WWE. Things are building up towards Night of Champions, and we'll be discussing all of that. Some of the challengers for the big titles in WWE, and I guess some of the little titles too. But and we're going to have a follow-up discussion based off of what we talked about on the show last week with the face-heel paradigm in WWE. There were some criticisms that were lobbied Steven's way about the idea that he suggested, so we'll be talking about that tonight. But let's go ahead and get started with your, not mine, your WWE World Heavyweight Champion, Seth Rollins. He's also the United States Champion, too. It looks as if the walls are starting to close in on Rollins. I watched Monday Night Raw, and the night was set up in a way that Seth Rollins was going to have to accomplish at that episode of Raw the same thing he was going to need to accomplish at Night of Champions to retain both of his titles, and that's win 2 matches in one night. Turns out he didn't win either of those matches. And I also do have to start out the show before we get into the nitty gritty. Rest in peace to Wonderball Rollins. Sting, he should definitely be arrested for would it be murder? He should be arrested, like at whatever degree of murder, like blatantly in the middle of everyone, just destroyed Wonderball Rollins. So rest in peace to you. But
Why do you call it Wonderball Rollins?
because there used to be these things back in the day, the Nestle Wonder Ball.
Right, yeah, I know what it is, yeah.
Yeah, it was like made out of chocolate, and you had like the prize inside. That's what it looks like. Like it looks like it was like a hollow chocolate statue. So I call him Wonderball Rollins.
Okay, yeah, like an Easter bunny or something, like one of those hollow chocolate Easter. Yeah, you're right. Now that I think about it, and now I'm really hungry for chocolate. So
man, I haven't seen one of those freaking Wonder Balls since like the last time I went to Blockbuster, and that tells you how long ago it was. Blockbuster. Back when you had to leave your house to watch movies and stuff like that.
Yeah, poor Blockbuster.
But, I guess rest in peace to them too. So we're gonna go ahead and talk about Seth Rollins now. Where do we begin? I mean, it was a pretty bad night for Seth Rollins, wouldn't you say?
I mean, I guess so. I'm not really sure why he was so peeved. It seemed that he's very prone to overreacting, his characters, and that's something he does very well. It's just something I don't like, ultimately, and it has a lot to do with what we're going to talk about later, the face and heel thing, the follow-up that you mentioned. But yeah, it did seem like he was having a bad day. I wasn't exactly sure why his day was so terrible. You mentioned the walls are closing in on him. I kind of thought that's what was happening at the build-up to his match with Brock Lesnar. And I was kind of fooled by that, maybe naively, because I thought Brock actually was going to take the title off of Rollins. So yeah, the walls seem to be closing in on him, but that's happened a lot. And so I don't know if they're actually going to.
Yeah, that's pretty much the exact same position that I'm in right now. And I know you've said it before, and also I've had many, many people let me know that Seth Rollins is a heel. And let me know that I could possibly be being worked, because I'm really affected by the image that is portrayed by Seth Rollins and the announcers. They play into it, and he's the greatest, and he's awesome. He's not just the future of WWE. He's the man, and he's so great, and he's so smart and intelligent and all of these things. And that kind of pisses me off because I don't see that in his character. And like Steven, you said it before, that I could possibly be being worked. I'm believing too much of the hype that's going into Seth Rollins, and that means that he's effectively playing his role as a heel. But here's my thing. If Seth Rollins was effectively playing his role as a heel, it should not be a situation where I didn't give a fuck about anything he was doing at all on Monday. Because if Seth Rollins was a legitimate heel in my eyes, and like I was being worked by this guy, I should take glee out of the fact that he's getting his comeuppance. But I watched Monday Night Raw, and this is how you know his character sucks, and I don't give one iota of a fuck about him. The entire night was built around humiliating Seth Rollins, and I did not care. I did not care at all. There was no emotional reaction from me when I saw this guy losing match after match, his statue getting destroyed, and him basically pitching a fit at the end of the show. I just sat there unaffected because nothing that he says, nothing that he does resonates with me at all. And that's where I stand with Seth Rollins.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. I'm not going to say that you're getting worked 24/7 all the time when it comes to Rollins, because I think you do have good criticisms, and I think there's definitely a lot to be desired with Seth Rollins' character. But there are moments where I see you getting worked. Like when JBL says this is the greatest champion of all time and you complain about it, I'm like, dude, it's JBL. Of course he's going to say that. But yeah, I'm not going to say you're getting worked all the time, because that's pretty much impossible, which is my whole argument around this heel face thing, is that it's impossible to work anyone to that extent anymore. But yeah, for what it's worth, Seth Rollins, I think, is a great heel. He gets people pissed off, annoyed. They want to see him get his ass kicked. But I think they're drawing this out a little too much, and they didn't give us the payoff when we wanted it, and now maybe that's why. Because I know personally, I didn't care about this either, but it's not because I don't want to see Rollins get his comeuppance, because I did, but I don't want it to be at the hands of Sting. I want it to be at the hands of Dean Ambrose. I want it to be at the hands of Brock Lesnar. You know, the guys who he actually wronged and cheated, because, you know, he's done it to Ambrose countless times, and he did it to Brock at WrestleMania, and so I really wanted to see Brock Lesnar destroy Rollins, and I didn't see that. And now Sting is going after him, and I'm like, well, okay, to me, the ship has sailed, because the guys, to me, who should have been the ones to beat Rollins have all had feuds with him and kind of over and done with. I guess maybe the only one left is Roman Reigns, who has not had a singles championship feud with Rollins, I don't think, because every time they try to do it, it kind of turns into it turned into a fatal four-way or something, right?
Yep.
So it could still be Reigns, and I might be satisfied with that, but Rollins didn't harm Reigns as much as he did Ambrose and Lesnar, so to me, it's kind of, ship has sailed on me wanting to see him get his comeuppance, but I did.
Yeah, it's like, basically to reiterate what you said, the people who should have kicked Seth Rollins' ass, he's moved on to new feuds. And it's kind of like Sting has more of an issue with Triple H than he does with Seth Rollins. And he
loves Triple H. Triple H is like his favorite wrestler, man.
I don't know, because hell, he came out there a few weeks ago, and what did he say? He said his number one goal not to win the championship, not to, defeat Seth Rollins. It was just to prove that he isn't half the man that Triple H is. Well, damn. But since we're on this subject now, I want to talk a little bit about Sting and who he is as #1 contender to the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. Because I look at him and I see a really big missed opportunity from WWE, because there's so much history that you could play off of with Sting, and you could talk about the fact that this, Sting is such a big figure in WCW's history and pro wrestling outside of WWE, and this is going to be his first ever WWE World Heavyweight Championship match. So there's so much history that they can play off of, so much more of a focus that they can place on Sting, but I don't feel as if they're placing that focus on Sting. They're pretty much using him in a role that they could use anyone. I look at Sting and I say, for a legend, an icon in the business, as much as they talk him up as being that, literally anyone can be in that position. Anyone can be the prankster and make jokes and try to humiliate Seth Rollins and destroy the statue and things like that. And it doesn't help anyone because it's not fully grasping the potential of having Sting in the match. It's not utilizing that name to a level of importance that it should be utilized. And also, it's making me feel as if Seth Rollins is overexposed because it's just too much of a focus on him. And if I didn't get that sense before, I damn sure got it on Monday Night Raw.
Yeah, that's a good point. Rollins is very overexposed, and he's been overexposed for a long time now. And it's weird, actually, now that I think about it. Rollins has been carrying this show, or at least he's been in the position to carry the show, since he betrayed the Shield. And that's simultaneously pretty impressive and also pretty sad because...
Yeah, when you take into account the quality of the show these days, yeah,
that
is
right,
sad.
But a lot of it has been good, especially early on. There's been good stuff from Rollins. But yeah, you're right, he's overexposed. And regarding Sting, I think they're doing... They did use Sting correctly when they first had him go after the Authority, because that's... Look, I don't know much about Sting. I never watched WCW, but I do know from what I see on the documentaries that they air on the network, the WCW documentaries and so on, I know that Sting is the type of character who goes after these sort of tyrannical regimes like the NWO. And so when he did that to the Authority, I thought that was pretty fitting from what I knew about Sting. I could be wrong because, like I said, I didn't watch WCW, but I thought that was a great use of it. Now he's going... Well, first of all, even before we get to Rollins, they ruined him, in my opinion, when they had him shake Triple H's hand after Triple H cheated in the match and hit him with the sledgehammer, which made him look like the biggest bitch I've ever seen, because it's like, what is respectable about that? Was he saying, we just had a war and you won? Because Sting wasn't looking for a war. Sting was going after the Authority, and then Triple H made it about WCW. So why did Sting just shake his hand? The only thing I could think of is what I mentioned a few times ago, is that this is all one big elaborate plan, but that's just too far-fetched. To me, it just seems like Sting actually has the respect of... Triple H actually has the respect of Sting, so he looks like a bitch to me. And now you fast forward to this Rollins thing, he's suddenly going after Rollins for who knows what reason. Like you said, you could put anyone in this role, and in fact, this is basically the role that Dean Ambrose played against Rollins. You could replace Sting with Ambrose, and you have the same segments. And it makes not much sense because right now, Rollins doesn't really have the backing of the Authority to the extent that he has had. He has them kind of on his side, but right now J&J aren't in play. Kane's not around. Triple H and Stephanie are always throwing roadblocks in his way, so they're not 100% behind him. So it's not like Sting is going up against the champion of the Authority. He's going after just the champion, which, like you said, it could just be anyone. You could put anyone in that situation. And so I feel like it is a missed opportunity with Sting because they're not utilizing his character properly.
Alrighty, and if you guys want to let us know what your thoughts are on Sting's utilization going into Night of Champions, your WWE World Heavyweight Champion and United States Champion Seth Rollins, feel free to do so in a variety of ways. We have the live chat that's going on YouTube right now. We also have the hashtag PWF Empire on Twitter, and also the post on PWFempire.com. And if you want to chat with the hosts of PWF Empire Live and other viewers of the show live and while it is in progress, like just interacting right then and there, you can do so every Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern on PWFempire.com. Speaking of 9 p.m. Wednesdays, next week, we will be having two shows. We're going to have a show on Monday following Raw. That is going to be the Night of Champions preview. Then we are going to have PWF Empire Anarchy Wednesday, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. So fast forward 7 days exactly from this very moment here, PWF Empire Anarchy to Electric Boogaloo. And what you guys can expect from that show is the unexpected, because you are actually going to co-host the show with us. That's right, you. Anybody who's listening to my voice, anybody who's watching me right now, you're going to be our co-host. This show is going to work in the same way. If you have ever been to one of my pre-shows for pay-per-views, it's going to work in that exact same way. And way back in the day, a lot of you guys remember the Sideshow, and a lot of you guys have been begging for that to come back. This is going to kind of be like a little Sideshow with a twist, because I'm going to be joined with Evan and also Steven on the panel, and you get to ask us whatever it is that you want to. We are not going to have any type of format for the show, no set list of topics going in. It's going to be you guys determining what it is that you want us to talk about. So if you want us to talk about Night of Champions, we'll talk about Night of Champions. If you want us to talk about Daredevil on Netflix, hell, we'll talk about Daredevil on Netflix. Whatever you guys want it to be, you call the shots next week. So I guess we shall see you then. But going on with this show, we're going to move on to Buy or Sell. Our first topic is Kevin Owens, because Kevin Owens has been making some moves in WWE lately, and it looks as if he set his sights on the Intercontinental Championship and its current caregiver, the Ryback. On this past episode of SmackDown, which was a really good episode, if I do say so myself, Kevin Owens, he kind of hinted at going after Ryback, because he was talking about all of these issues with his weight, or at least what other people are attempting to make an issue with his weight. And he said, for all of the people who have an issue with my weight and the way that I look, I say, feed me more. And we got a brief interaction between those two guys on Monday Night Raw. And yeah, I guess we can go ahead and say Kevin Owens soon will be named the #1 contender for the Intercontinental Championship. Steven, do you buy or sell this move for Kevin Owens?
I sell it so hard, because I've seen this. Why would you buy it, man? I've seen what happens to anyone who gets this title. It's not a good picture. Also, Owens, it's a downgrade, because he couldn't beat Cena. Well, he did beat him, but he couldn't beat him for the U.S. title. So now he goes after the least prestigious singles title in the entire WWE.
I mean, the Divas Championship is still there.
Okay, but you know what I mean. It's
the least prestigious title that he can actually compete for. I got it.
Yeah, it's in all of WWE, including NXT, because the NXT title is way more prestigious, as I don't think anyone would argue. So he's going after the least prestigious title. To me, this is a terrible move. And, like, sure, in principle, I like it, because the Intercontinental title should be the stepping stone to the main title, but we all know it's not. And also, coming off a feud with Cena in which he lost his opportunity to win the U.S. title, it just seems like a step down. And so I have to sell it, because I want bigger things for Kevin Owens, and I don't want him to suffer the fate of every Intercontinental champion that I've seen for the last decade.
See, here's the thing. Maybe it's just this hopeless optimism that I have. Like, I understand what you're saying. You're 100% correct. The Intercontinental Championship is not that prestigious. But, like, we have to, like, turn the corner sometimes. Like, why can't this be the time where we turn the corner? Like, I look at it and now that I see where Kevin Owens has gone after his feud with Cesaro, I have an appreciation for how it ended. Like, I'll still agree with Evan when he said that the endings to the two matches that they recently had, the one at SummerSlam and the one on Monday Night Raw, they should have been flipped. But the thing here is, I was judging this by convoluted ass WWE standards, where it's like, okay, well, they had two matches and we got two wins from Kevin Owens. Like, how do they extend this feud? What type of crazy shit is going to happen now where they extend this feud for 15 more matches? And nothing crazy happened. This is like old school. Kevin Owens went in there. He said he was going to beat Cesaro. He did at SummerSlam. He did on Monday Night Raw. There's nothing left to prove there. And he got some wins behind his back. He got a winning feud, and he's using that momentum to carry him over to a championship. And I have a great appreciation for the simplicity that's involved in that. So I'll say I buy it, and I'm hoping that the talent that Kevin Owens possesses, if anyone backstage is still high on this guy, that it can carry him through, and maybe, just maybe, we'll turn the corner with the Intercontinental Championship.
It's nice and all, the idea, but I've seen this too many times. Also, I'm really angry that Kevin Owens and Cesaro came out of that feud with each other with neither of them any better off, and in fact, both of them worse off than they both entered. Like, I'm really pissed off at that because both of those guys were on people's minds as the next main eventers, potentially. And now I don't see either of them as that. Now, Kevin Owens, like I said, he beat Cena clean, so I will always see Kevin Owens as a very credible guy. No matter what they do to him, I will always say, the dude beat Cena clean. That's more prestigious than winning the world title, literally, because Jack Swagger won the world title. And Jack Swagger will never beat John Cena clean. So, yeah, that's a pretty big deal. But still, both of these guys right now have nothing going for them, and that pisses me off because whenever it looks like a new star is going to break out, they have this magic, they just squander it, and it makes me think these guys are idiots. They're just dumb. They're stupid. And it makes me lose faith in this whole thing because anyone with a brain can see this, that you have two potential superstars on your hands, Cesaro and Owens, and they just squander it, and now both guys are back where they started. And in fact, Owens is worse off than he's ever been in WWE because when he had the NXT title, that was a big deal.
I mean, that isn't that kind of tough though. Like, this guy has been riding high literally since his first night on NXT. So
no, it's tough, but it's also not impossible because, like I said, I think I made this case when he first started.
No, here's what I'm saying. Like, it's factually, it's accurate to say he's as bad as he's been in WWE, but it's like I said, the guy's been riding high literally since day one on NXT and WWE.
Yeah, which is why I say you should keep that going.
So they had a duty to, keep
yes,
it up. Okay,
I hate what this is where it's like it's not a strict progression to the top, it's zigzag. Like, people go up and they go down. Like The Miz, he main evented WrestleMania, now he's, whatever. Same with Swagger. Shows. Right, same with Swagger, same with Dolph Ziggler, same with the Great Khali, same with so many other people that I can name. Like, to me, if someone's on a trajectory towards the top, you got to see that through, and then you owe it to the entire universe. And I don't mean like the fans. I'm not using that term how WWE uses it. I'm using it in terms of the kayfabe universe. You owe it to the kayfabe universe to continue that way, because if you say that wrestlers can just become better and worse at the drop of a dime, then there's no consistency or logic to this universe, and so nothing makes sense, really. It just attacks the very foundation of this universe, and it just makes it hard for me to take anything seriously, because if someone wins the world title, I could say, well, there's a very good chance this guy will be fighting for the IC title next year. Same with Daniel Bryan, another thing. You see what I mean? I think if you're going to have Owens on a trajectory towards the top, you got to see that through, and you got to keep him at that level. You can't just bring him down all of a sudden and then bring him back up all of a sudden. It's just confusing, and that's what they do with Cesaro, because at one minute he's beating Randy clean and almost beating Cena, and the next minute he can't beat Owens twice in a row. It's the same with Barrett. One day he's winning a tournament, the next day he can't beat R-Truth. Like, what is this? It's nonsense. It's stupid.
You know, I'm going to give you points on that, because I can definitely see what you're saying. And the feud between Cesaro and Kevin Owens, in no way, shape, or form did it turn out the way that I wanted it to. Because when I look at those two guys, I see that feud as WWE artificially establishing a ceiling for them. Basically saying, this is where you are. You don't have any hopes of getting any higher than that anytime soon. But I'm still crossing my fingers, hoping that Kevin Owens can do some good for the Intercontinental Championship. But when you look at the overall picture, it is kind of disappointing the way that WWE has handled Owens and Cesaro. We are going to discuss now Randy Orton and him possibly being Roman Reigns and Dean Ambrose's third man. So on Monday Night Raw, we had a very brief segment backstage where we didn't hear anything that was going on, but we did see Randy Orton engaging in a conversation with Roman Reigns and Dean Ambrose. Now, we know the big situation that they're involved in right now. They're feuding with the Wyatt family. The Wyatt family has Sasquatch on their side now, so it's just logical to assume that Roman Reigns and Dean Ambrose are looking for a third guy to kind of even the odds a bit. So fast forward, we get Randy Orton in a match with Sheamus, and basically the way things ended up, Randy Orton fell victim to an attack at the hands of the Wyatt family. Now, this could possibly indicate that Randy Orton is that third man. So if Randy Orton is to be that third man, do you buy or sell that addition to the team of Reigns and Ambrose?
No, I really don't want to see that. I sell that for many reasons. I mean, the first is that it's boring. It's not going to be a surprise. It's basically another makeshift babyface team. And also, I just don't like the idea of Randy being with the Shield, because they've had problems with Randy for so long, and it's another one of those things where it's like, well, now they're cool with Randy. They don't like Randy, I thought. They were at war with him in the Authority and in Evolution, and just recently in their Fatal 4-Way match. So this, to me, I really don't want it to be Randy, because the whole ethos of this feud is that it's like family versus family, and Randy Orton is not family to these two. And if you're going to have someone, it has to be, and I'm not saying there's really anyone who is family to them, because they've established that these guys are kind of lone wolves. They've only really banded together them two, and also Rollins before he did the thing. So it's hard to say that there would even be someone else, but you could at least establish a new sort of family kinship, but you can't do that with Randy when you have a history that goes opposite that narrative. So I definitely don't want to see that.
Yeah, I'm going to have to sell this as well. I'm going to sell the execution of it. I'm going to sell the fact that it's Randy Orton. Everything must go. I'm selling this whole damn thing. Like, I don't like the fact that we had the Wyatt family make the first move. Like, they struck first in this, because it just seems so weird. Like, I would think that WWE would want to save whoever was going to be on the team with Roman Reigns and Dean Ambrose as kind of like a surprise. And if it's going to be Randy Orton, what happened on Monday Night Raw pretty much gave it away. And it's not just that. It's that, like, they had the Wyatt family attack him. So even if Randy Orton didn't have a problem with the Wyatt family before, he damn sure does now. And he has a reason to be on that team. And it kind of, it's really weird. You have to wonder, how fucking stupid can they possibly be? Like, why would you go after a 12-time world champion? You have a friggin' lunatic. You have a sociopath. You've walked right into his crosshairs.
Oh, like, he's not a sociopath right now.
Oh, like, he's not a sociopath anymore. Yes, he got that therapy. And
no,
stuff,
not anymore, because he will be again once he turns heel. You get it. It's just when he's face, then he has no mental problems. That's just how it is.
Well, like his sociopathicness is like on ice right now, and it's laying dormant. You never know what's gonna like unlock it. That you could have possibly just unlocked it there. Who knows? Like, if you were gonna attack shit, why not attack Heath Slater? Attack Zack Ryder, you know? Then he has a problem with you. He gets on a team. That's an easy win right there.
Yeah, the idea was, I guess, that the Wyatt family is going to go after anyone who tries to team up with the other two. But
now, see, if that's it, I actually like that.
No, that is it, because that's what the commentary was getting over. But I don't know if you could actually sustain that, because now if Randy doesn't retaliate, he looks like a bitch. So that's a problem. Also, I kind of feel like this whole thing is devaluing Roman Reigns, because Roman Reigns should be the guy who can take on Braun Strowman, but it's to the point where Reigns can't handle that. Now, Reigns was supposed to be the big, strong dude, the juggernaut. Right now, he's not the juggernaut, because he can't take on Braun. Because if this was any two other guys, you would have Reigns in mind for the third guy to take on Braun, but it's not. It's obviously not Reigns. So I think the way they've set this up kind of, and I don't really blame them, because it's hard, because you bring in this new guy and he's big, and you can't have Reigns.
Gotta get him over.
Yeah, they got to get him over, but it's almost like they did it to their detriment. Maybe they should have saved this guy until after the Shield feud, because now Reigns doesn't look very strong, and I don't mean that as a joke. Like, he really doesn't. He can't take on this monster, because Cena would be able to. So if you're going to compare Cena to Reigns, Cena would be getting this guy one-on-one, whereas Reigns has Ambrose. He still can't beat him. So that's just another thing.
Yeah, I see exactly what you're talking about right now, because it pretty much puts Roman Reigns and Dean Ambrose on the same level and say that they're bringing the same things to the table, and they're looking for the real star. Like, this is going to be the difference maker. This is the guy who's going to come in and change the game up. And it kind of seems as if they're putting Roman Reigns in the second fiddle position. So
yeah, and it's, like I said, I don't blame them for this, because it's kind of an unintended side effect of just bringing in this monster, because obviously Reigns is going to look very small in comparison. And you can't have Reigns go over him, because, like you said, you got to get him over. I think they should have waited until after the Reigns feud to bring in this guy. But, you know, it's happened, so they got to deal with it somehow.
And we got a comment from Tamika on Twitter. She says, this feud with Reigns and Ambrose versus the Wyatts, isn't it supposed to be a family versus family? And if the Viper joins Reigns and Ambrose, wouldn't that defeat the concept? Well, yeah, but I mean, WWE, I don't think that they would have any issue in that at all, because we can go back to like the concept before the family versus family was a concept, and they've completely forgotten about that. Hell, most people probably don't even remember this started about Bray Wyatt and Roman Reigns, and Bray Wyatt stopping Roman Reigns from reaching a point of success in WWE. But hell, we have Roman Reigns and Dean Ambrose killing it in tag team competition. He's winning matches. There's no more mention of the fact that Bray Wyatt had such a stranglehold on Roman Reigns that he couldn't win matches or anything like that. Like, that's all gone. So they just keep evolving to the next and forgetting about what happened before.
Yes.
They could possibly do it again.
Well, then this marks officially the next Bray Wyatt feud in a series where nothing changes after they feud with him, because the Reigns feud is over. Now we're in the Ambrose and Reigns feud versus Wyatt's. So that's over, and I could say for sure Just like all the others, Reigns was unaffected by Bray Wyatt, which
Well,
this is why you can't really take Bray Wyatt seriously because he doesn't change anything, really.
onward and upward, we are going to move on now to the Divas champion, Nikki Bella. I guess this plays more along that whole theme of Night of Challengers because Charlotte, she is the number one contender to the Divas Championship, and if she had had her match at Night of Champions, like was originally scheduled, then Nikki would have just walked right into the record. But Charlotte waged a petition to the authority, and she got her match, or she's going to get her match, next week on Monday Night Raw. And this is going to be a monumental contest because this one match is the difference between Nikki Bella being the longest reigning Divas champion of all time versus Nikki Bella being the longest reigning Divas champion of all time. Because I don't want to, spoil the fun, but Nikki actually ties AJ on Monday. So whether she wins or loses, she's still going to technically have the record. This is just a matter of if she's going to tie for the record or have the record on her own. But I guess with that being said, Steven, do you buy or sell this match between Nikki and Charlotte for the Divas Championship?
Yeah, I buy it. I just wish they would have pushed this back a week further because, like you said, she's going to tie it anyway. But it's better that they have it now instead of at Night of Champions. I'm sure they'll also have another Divas match at Night of Champions, probably a rematch. No matter who wins, it'll probably be the same match. But yeah, it's good because there's no stakes there is a stake, which should be the Divas Championship, but they're building up the whole will she beat the record thing, and we talked about how that makes no sense if she just goes into the pay-per-view having beaten the record. So at least they didn't take us to be that stupid. At least they're trying to do it. But I'm hoping Charlotte does prevent her from breaking the record because I think that just would be the better payoff. I don't see the point in having Nikki beat the record. It's kind of anticlimactic because usually when you have a champion or someone build up this whole I'm going to beat this record thing like a heel, usually it gets broken, and that's usually the desired outcome. If she just breaks the record and then loses the title, well, kind of she already won. Because, yeah, she lost the title, but she did break the record. So I'm hoping Charlotte wins.
I'm going to buy this match as well, but I have to sell overall Nikki's title reign as much as it hurts me because you guys know that's my homegirl. However, the fact is she hasn't defended her championship in 2 months. The last time that I remember her defending her championship was at the Beast in the East special, and WWE did such a great disservice to Nikki Bella in this championship reign, and I even created a freaking hashtag about it, September 15th, and all of this stuff because I was so excited about it at one point, but I'm not really excited about it anymore. It's just because they let her walk right into the record, and there should have been a bigger, a greater sense of urgency for someone to take that title off of her. So I think that they did a great job in adding that little twist at the very end. This is literally gonna come down to, well, not literally the last minute, the last hour of the record. It's gonna come down to that. But yeah, they should have created that sense of urgency a lot more. But the fact that they did get the twist on the end, I'll give you credit for that. But the way that I see things going, I'm not going to say Nikki is going to win the match next week. I'll put it like this. Nikki is walking away with that championship. She is. Whether it be by disqualification, whether it be by count out, some way or another, she's walking into Night of Champions champion, and then we'll get the rematch on that show. I think they're going to let her break the record. So, now that we've gotten that out of Wait, I want to go to a few comments that we got on Twitter. This is from Blacklist of the Abyss. He says, as much as I love the NXT women, aren't they winning too much? With guys like Neville and Kevin Owens, we say it's okay for them to lose to the top guys in the division. For the women, though, that logic goes out of the window with us. Shouldn't women like Paige and Nikki be losing a lot less often since they've shown dominance on multiple occasions? See, I think it's very difficult to compare the women's side of things to the men's side of things on WWE TV because there's a hierarchy established on the men's side of things. And on the Divas side, it's pretty much a free-for-all. There's no sense of structure there. Yeah, you got the Divas champion at the top, but to be quite honest, there's no big stars that come out of there because you look at the main roster and the guy side, there are guys that you want to protect on that roster. Say that this guy can't lose too often. You know, of course, people like John Cena and things like that, but they don't have any kind of sense of protection on the women's side. They just throw them out there and do whatever the hell they want to with them. So I think the reason why we see them protecting the women that are coming up from NXT is because they're less damaged than everyone else. So that's pretty much how I look at the situation. You know, you take that as a positive if you want to, but it's just like we haven't had a chance to fuck them up yet. So we want to kind of like wait on that a little bit. And
I'd say they're messing up Sasha pretty bad, but
yeah, they are.
Yep.
The fact that she's not the top star out of the division, the fact that she's been on the main roster for 2 months and hasn't, risen to the top of the pack, that's doing a great disservice to her.
Yeah, she was just the NXT Women's Champion, which was, I think, to anyone who's paying attention's mind, the most prestigious women's title in the company. So she should have been, the one to face Nikki, not Charlotte. But hopefully they'll push Sasha again. I don't know. I'm losing faith in any of this stuff, honestly.
Okay, so now is the time where we move on to push, repackage, release. Here are the rules. Based off of their current character/gimmicks, you'll be tasked with deciding what to do with 3 wrestlers if you were in charge of a promotion that they worked for. Now, I do have to throw out a disclaimer here. This is not for us to say, if I was in charge of WWE, the first thing I would do is fire Becky Lynch. No, we are viewing these 3 superstars in a vacuum, saying if you had to fire one of them, if you had to push one of them, if you had to repackage the other, what would you do? And the way that we accomplish this is we take 3 superstars, we rank them based off of their attributes. We compare them to each other, and you basically get into a situation where you have to compare and contrast. You're like, for example, you can have one guy who's really good in the ring, but he sucks on the mic. And you have another guy over here, he's solid in the ring, but he has great mic skills. Which one are you going to push? Which one are you going to get rid of? Like, which skills matter the most to you? So that's what we do and push, repackage, release. It's basically putting you on the hot seat as a wrestling fan to see which attributes you value the most. So, I don't want to do this.
Luckily, you don't have to.
I don't have to. I know it's going to be fun, though. It's going to be fun. It's going to be very interesting. And I want to know what you guys think about this as well. Here's push, repackage, release for this week. We are taking 3 highly talented individuals in the overall WWE umbrella, and they do have something in common. They are new additions to the roster over these last few years. They're big prospects, and also they have all held the same championship back to back to back actually. Who am I talking about?
Big E,
I'm talking...
Bo Dallas, and Seth Rollins.
No, hell no. That's way too easy. I am talking about NXT champion Finn Bálor, former NXT champion Kevin Owens, and even more former NXT champion Sami Zayn for Push Repackage Release. Steven, you're up first.
Yeah, it's hard, but to me, it's not as hard as I think it is for you. Because there's only one guy here who I really, really care about, and that's Kevin Owens. So as long as I get to keep him, which I do, then I'm pretty good. I do like the other two, but I think Kevin Owens by and far is my favorite of the three. So I'm going to push Kevin Owens because of what I said earlier. If you're going to push Kevin Owens, you push Kevin Owens. You don't demote him after he just had this wave of momentum. So that's the easy one. Now this is the hard part for me because I'm thinking like which one will be more valuable in the future. Now, I think many people might agree that Sami Zayn, in principle, is the better babyface here because he is the more sympathetic. He is arguably the better wrestler, and he's just a very, very good babyface. Probably, I'd say second to Daniel Bryan in being like a sympathetic, just pure babyface. But I think on the main roster, he's not going to get there. I don't think he has long main roster potential. I don't see him getting to the main event, or if he does, it'll probably be one of those things where he wins the title in a big struggle like Daniel Bryan or like Dolph Ziggler, but then he just loses it, and that's just his 5 minutes of fame. And I think Finn Balor has longer and bigger potential. So I'm going to say release Sami Zayn, unfortunately, just because I don't think he has the potential that I would be looking for. And I say repackage Finn Balor because Finn Balor, right now, he has a pretty good thing going on. He does. But it's very simplistic, and it's going to run out of fuel because you can only do the demon entrance so many times before it just becomes another entrance. I think there's something to that, but I think it needs to be developed more. I think Finn Balor needs more of an edge to him. He can't just be a good wrestler who sometimes taps into this alternate persona. Like, he needs an edge to him. There needs to be some sort of difference in the demon that's not just aesthetic. It needs to be, I don't know, maybe a personality difference. Like, he needs to really push his personality while he's the demon for that to really last. So I think that would require a bit of a repackage because I don't know what the answer to that is. I'm sure I could think of something if I had to, but I'm not on the creative team, so I don't have to do that job. But I do think Finn Balor has better potential to be a bigger babyface and maybe even a bigger heel than Sami Zayn because Finn Balor I can see as a heel. I cannot see Sami Zayn as a heel. So that kind of makes Finn Balor a bit more valuable. So yeah, I'm going to say push Owens, repackage Balor, and release Sami Zayn.
I just want to say very quickly for all of the people who are saying it's easy to release Sami Zayn because he's injured, that is so cheap, and that is not the intention of what it is that we are doing here. I just want to go ahead and let you guys know that. That's like when we did that whole push repackage release on John Cena, Brock Lesnar, and Randy Orton. Someone on Facebook, they were like, oh, of course I would release Randy Orton because he has 2 strikes on the wellness policy. Stop thinking so much. No, that is not what I intended for this to be. But now that I got this out of the way, I'm stalling here because this is very difficult for me because I look at Finn Balor, Kevin Owens, and Sami Zayn. These are 3 of my favorite guys in the entire world as far as pro wrestling is concerned. And I look at these 3 guys, and they are each holding a position in WWE that is very important. It's like crucial, and it's not at the level of availability that it should be. I look at these three guys, and this could possibly be the future of WWE. And that's why it's tough for me to say that I'm going to release one of these guys. But first and foremost, I want to say I want to push Finn Bálor, but I can't do that because there is one thing that I dislike about Finn Bálor, and that's his fucking finisher.
Yeah, I agree so hard.
That double foot stomp, I hate it with a passion, but I have such a great love for Finn Bálor that it kind of like...
It's a nice signature. It's a nice signature, but it's not a finisher.
Yeah, but as a finisher, oh no. But the thing that Finn Bálor has going for himself, he's a very enriched character, and he's very larger than life. The way that he goes into that alternate persona of his, the demon, I love that so much. And the fact that his character plays into the matches that he has, it plays into his action, I think that that's all amazing. And I'm gonna say it again, it's not available on the level that it should be in WWE, but I'm so glad that we can see that resonating through Finn Bálor. So I want to push him, but I'm going to say I repackage Finn Bálor, and he needs to change that damn finisher. So, from here, you have Sami Zayn, who is a great sympathetic babyface. I agree with every single thing that Steven talked about here. And you have Kevin Owens. I love this guy so much because he is a very pragmatic heel. He's not the guy that's going to go out there and intentionally try to piss you off. He's not the guy that's going to go out there and get cheap heat or anything like that. Kevin Owens is Kevin Owens. He goes out there and he says what he feels. And if you like it, wonderful. If you don't like it, he doesn't give a rat's ass about it because he has his objective in mind, and that's what he's in WWE for. He's there to accomplish an objective. And we've got some great stuff from this guy. A lot of it had to do with Sami Zayn. Like, I'll never forget that match that they had for the NXT Championship, and you had the crumpled up, broken, beaten down body of your best friend laid out on the mat, and Kevin Owens is smiling over Sami Zayn's nearly unconscious body because he doesn't give a damn that he had to destroy his best friend for the NXT Championship, because the NXT Championship puts food on his family's table, it puts money in his pocket, and it helps him provide for his family. So the fact that he can do things like that, love the guy. Sami Zayn, man, when he won that NXT Championship, one of the greatest moments I've seen in wrestling. There's just something about him that he's so endearing. And I don't make this decision lightly at all, but I have to push Kevin Owens and release Sami Zayn. The reason being is because we do have Daniel Bryan in WWE. So if we needed like a sympathetic, endearing babyface, he's there. There's not another guy in WWE like Kevin Owens, and we need that going forward. So that would be my whole lineup. Push Kevin Owens, repackage Finn Bálor, and release Sami Zayn. Very unfortunately. Man. That was tough. I'm glad it's over with, though. But let us know what you guys think and which moves you would make and push, repackage, release. The most current NXT champions, Kevin Owens, Finn Bálor, and Sami Zayn. From this point, we're now going to move on to a follow-up discussion to the topic that we discussed on last week's show, which was the face-heel paradigm in wrestling. So basically, Steven proposed an idea that we should flip the entire model of faces and heels in WWE. Most people in the company should be tweeners, and they should have more enriched characters that elicit the reactions from the crowd, and not just worry about fitting people into categories, saying, oh, you're a heel and you have to do this, you're a face and you have to do that. Make it a little bit more natural. And he used John Cena as an example. So the biggest criticism that I heard about your proposed idea was the fact that you centered the model on the example of John Cena. And a lot of people have said that it would be difficult to do that because it's not as if who John Cena is today in WWE and the reaction that he gets from the crowd is intentional. For all intents and purposes, we can call it a mistake. Because I'm quite sure before Vince McMahon pulled the trigger on John Cena's push many, many years ago, if you had asked him the question, what do you want the result of this push to be? I guarantee you he would not answer, half the crowd loves John Cena, half the crowd hates John Cena. So, with that in mind, how do you address that criticism? That it's hard to base the model off of John Cena.
Right. Well, it is hard to base it off of John Cena, but it's not impossible. And last week I gave some examples of non-John Cena people who kind of elicit the same 50-50 reaction. And the thing is, they don't do it in a vacuum like Cena does. That's where Cena is unique, where he has this divisive aura about him no matter what he's doing. But you can get that if you situate the wrestlers correctly. So by that I mean you take two guys who are loved, Kevin Owens and Finn Balor. You put them against each other, and suddenly there's a split. You take Sasha Banks, you take Bayley, suddenly there's a split. And that's not a matter of, well, I like Sasha or I don't, I like Becky or I don't. It's a matter of who do you like better. Are you a Kevin Owens person or are you a Finn Balor person? And that's going to create a friction within the fan base that is very John Cena-like, because suddenly you have a reason to chant almost, because there's these other guys. These are the Finn Balor guys. We don't want them to get their way. We want to get our way. We're the Kevin Owens guys, you know. This is sort of how it works with John Cena. It's like there's all these kids. They're the Cena people. We don't want Cena, so we're going to boo him. And I always liken it to like sports teams. I think that's one of the reasons why sports in general are so lucrative and long-standing, is because you have these divides and you have these almost teams. You have these camps, you know. You're either a Yankees person or you're a Mets person. Same thing could be said if you were to put CM Punk or Daniel Bryan. Eventually, at that point, you got to choose. You may like both of them, but who are you a bigger fan of? Same thing with Brock Lesnar and The Undertaker. That was another example. These are two very popular guys, but when you put them against each other, suddenly there's a divide. So I think you can do it. It's just that you have to make likable stars, first of all, in order to create that divide. Like, you can't have just one guy who is above and beyond everyone. I mean, I guess you can, but I guess that guy in our instance would be Daniel Bryan, because he's, from what I can see, cheered over everyone else. But even him, he would get, I'm sure if you put him against another fan favorite, he would get some people who are rooting for the other guy, you know. And so
I can speak for myself in saying that I definitely thought Daniel Bryan was a heel going into Fastlane. Like that whole WrestleMania build-up, like not WrestleMania, but Royal Rumble build-up when he was trying to steal.
Were you rooting for Roman Reigns?
Hell yeah! Like Daniel Bryan was, he was an entitled jackass, and
wow,
I was like, I looked at him and I was like, I hope Roman Reigns breaks you in half.
He was being a little bit of a dick, but he wasn't an entitled jackass. I mean, come on, this guy. He vacated the world title, and he never got his rematch. But anyway, this is what I'm talking about.
That's not his fault.
Right, okay.
What does Roman Reigns have to do with that? But I guess exactly what's happening right now,
that's my point.
It's what you're talking about.
It is what I'm talking about. Like, you have to... You can't... What I don't like is when you have one guy who is over and above the fan favorite, and the people don't care about the other guy. So I'm not sure what an example would be. I guess Daniel Bryan versus Randy, as good of a feud that was, everyone wanted Daniel Bryan to win. And I think that is kind of a problem because that's not. Maybe I picked a bad example because those were real emotions.
Mm-hmm.
Daniel Bryan, I think, arguably one of the only people to elicit real like babyface emotions a long time. So maybe I picked a bad example. But whenever you have a popular face against a heel, it's not that you need the babyface to win, right? It's that you just want him to win. And I think that's where wrestling is starting to fail because that's not a real feeling. It's just I want my guy to win, but I don't need him to win. I don't feel so strongly about it that my day will be ruined if my guy does not win. And I think that's what you got to do. And whenever Cena's involved, that's how things are. Like if it's Cena versus Bryan, it's like if Bryan does not win, I am going to be pissed off and I'm going to be sad. When it's Cena versus Punk, same deal. When it's Cena versus basically anyone else, you get this feeling because Cena actually elicits those emotions. And that's how I think that should be how all main events at least are structured. I would argue you should extend that to most of the roster.
So basically you're saying it doesn't matter that the reaction that John Cena gets right now was a mistake because it's like WWE, I guess you could say they stumbled into greatness. Could that possibly be what you're trying to say? Because
it's hard to say because Cena's such a loaded individual. It's hard to separate what we're talking about from everything else John Cena represents. But I do think it was a mistake that in a lot of ways was very beneficial because I know personally during that time from 2007 to 2009 maybe, whenever Cena's reign of terror was going on, like I legit would tune in to see Cena lose. Like every pay-per-view, I'm like, is this going to be the guy that finally takes the belt off of Cena? So Cena was operating as a heel in my eyes, but he wasn't this conventional heel who goes out and gets intentional heel heat. He was just a guy existing, and I will pay money to see him lose. Now, I think the fact that it was a mistake is actually what I'm advocating. I'm saying stop trying to force reactions. Make most of the characters as neutral as you can, and let the reactions speak for themselves. And then what you'll get is real emotions and not forced emotions. Like, are people booing Sheamus because he's going out and insulting them and being mean to them because he's a big bad guy, or are they booing Sheamus because they really don't like Sheamus? Well, I think it's the latter, but still, in a lot of cases, it's hard to tell, right? And so I was just watching right before this. I was rewatching the Seth Rollins opening thing, where Rollins calls Sheamus Ronald McDonald, and then Sheamus says, "Don't you disrespect my family like that," or something. And it's like, this is the cartoony heel crap that I'm talking about. Like, this is so stupid. And then you have the crowd chanting, "You look stupid," and Sheamus is like, "No, I don't look stupid. You will respect the Hawk." And I'm like, this is dumb. Like, this is kid stuff. And it's working to an extent. People are having fun, but it's not legitimate, and it's not going to last. Like, you can't run Sheamus being hated because of his hair in the main event. You could do that in the mid-card, but this is the guy holding the Money in the Bank. He could possibly be the next world champion. You can't have his heat based on his hair, you know? Mm-hmm. That can't be what draws people towards this character, is the fact that he looks stupid. And I think a lot of people in the business would disagree with me on this, because Sheamus is one of those guys. I've heard him do interviews, and he's like, yes, that's the reaction I want. If you want people to hate my hair. Well, Sheamus is thinking like a heel, and I don't blame him, because that's the system he's in. He's just trying to get heel heat, and it works, but it's not this deep emotional thing, you know? People don't really think Sheamus is so stupid looking that they will buy tickets to see him lose. That's just how it is, you know?
There's someone in the chat saying that you're wanting WWE to become the UFC. Like, I guess you could possibly say that, and
yeah, sure.
Maybe yeah, because what I would say is just for WWE to catch up to the world that has grown around them, because society has changed so much from the point where, you know, the archetypes of what a heel is supposed to be and what a face is supposed to be when they were established. And it's just like that has just those pillars in the wrestling industry, they've lasted for so long. But we're at a point in society right now where we have people like Walter White, we have people like Jax Teller, we have people like hell, Omar from The Wire. Like, we have all of these people who I guess you could possibly consider them good guys, but they don't necessarily always do good things. And you root for them because you have an emotional connection to them, not necessarily because they're a good guy and you have to. You root for them because you want to. And I guess, like, basically to sum everything up, WWE should be at a point right now where they catch up to the world that has grown immensely around them.
Yeah, I think I said this before, but we're in
Tyrion Lannister, yeah, there you go.
Yeah, we're in a golden age of television right now, and WWE has not even begun to catch up, and they don't even understand what is surrounding them. The fact that WWE does not see that they're competing, and Vince always pays lip service to this. Like, he'll say, yeah, I'm competing with everything else on TV. But he doesn't act like it, because if he acted like it, he would see Breaking Bad, and he would say, I could write a show just as well as that is. He would see Game of Thrones. He would see even kids shows, like I've argued, are better written than WWE. So this is like, they're really behind. They don't understand that the standard for television is so high right now that it's no wonder why people are really bored with WWE. And in some ways, they're lucky, because when wrestling is good, it's great, as I think Max Landis is the one who said that, maybe people before him, in his Wrestling Isn't Not Wrestling or something documentary. He said when wrestling is good, it's great, which is true. So that keeps people like me watching, and people, I'm sure, in this audience watching, because we're waiting for those big moments, which do come once in a while, that make us say, okay, oh, this is why I'm watching, that's right. But it's not every week, you know, and it's not even every month. It's not always even every 2 months. It could be once a year, maybe twice a year, maybe 4 or 5 times a year, which is very, very small compared to how many episodes of Raw air. So they really got to catch up, and their methods are not modern. And yeah, the UFC would be a great model. That would be the model that I'd say they should look at. And to some extent, it shouldn't be exactly like the UFC, because the UFC is obviously legit fighting. So there's weight classes, there's all this stuff. I don't advocate that WWE goes back to weight classes. I think that box has opened up, and you can't put the genie back in the bottle. You know, now that guys...
You can't put Rey Mysterio back in there.
Yeah, you can't put Rey Mysterio, CM Punk, Daniel Bryan, Shawn Michaels, all these guys back in the bottle. We already established that that smaller guys could win the world title. So you can't really retcon that. And I think if they did, it'd be a mistake, because the smaller guys are usually the more popular guys at this time. So I don't say they go to an exact UFC model, but I do say that they should look at that, and they should kind of use it as a model for how wrestling should be.
And as always, guys, make sure you let us know what your thoughts are. A lot of great discussion going on in the chat right now. I see Orbits. He made the comment, God bless Jay for shouting out Omar. The Wire, greatest of all time. I guess we'll talk about that a little more next week on PWF Empire Anarchy, but friggin' love that show. And WWE was in Baltimore on Monday. And I guess that's one of the... This will probably be the only time that I miss CM Punk, because he's a big fan of The Wire too, and I know if he was there, he would have made a reference to it. And I guess I could probably make a reference to it too, because, you know, all of those dead bodies that were in the row houses that Marlowe put there, yeah, apparently they bought tickets to Monday Night Raw, because that crowd was DOA. God damn. You know, most of the cases I don't blame them though, but Yeah, we're going to go ahead and close out this episode of PWF Empire Live with The Swerve. I've picked one wrestling story out of the week that I'm going to turn face on, which will elicit praise from me, or I'm going to turn heel, and it's going to bring out a fiery, burning rage of a rant. This week, I am going to be talking about Kana. So, if you don't know, it was recently announced that NXT, Triple H, they completed the signing of this big Japanese female wrestling star, Kana. And she'll be reporting to the Performance Center down in Florida shortly. And she'll also be joining the WWE NXT Women's Division. And with people like Sasha Banks leaving for the main roster, we have Becky Lynch, Charlotte, 75% of the horsewomen, they've moved on to things. I was about to say better things, but they moved on to things. So Kana, she's going to be a great addition to the NXT Women's Division. But here's the thing. A lot of you guys may not be familiar with Kana. I actually am, and I want to share a story with you guys now. So I have this wrestling simulation game. It's called Total Extreme Wrestling, and it is like WWE SmackDown vs. Raw General Manager mode on steroids. You get to own your own wrestling promotion. You get to book the company, make the match cards from top to bottom, book angles, all of this great stuff. You get to format gimmicks for different wrestlers on the roster, and it's not just that you have your own company, you actually exist in the entire wrestling world, and you can mod it to the point where you have WWE, you have TNA, Lucha Underground, all of these companies exist, and your company has to compete against all of them. So I had my own company, and my most dominant champion in the whole friggin' company was my women's champion. She was on a year-long title reign. She was undefeated, just doing some crazy stuff. So I look over the roster because I'm at the point right now where I'm about to book her to lose the championship. And I'm looking over the roster and I'm like, man, she's defeated every woman on this roster 2 times over. It's time for me to bring in some new blood. So I go on a search all across the world looking for the person that's going to defeat my champion. I find Kana. She's highly talented, has a great skill set. I hire her, sign her to a contract. I get her to the company. I give her a great character. She gets over. I enter her into a feud with my champion. She beats the champion, ends the winning streak, ends the year-long title reign. She wins the women's championship. Do you know, 3 days later, her ass gets a contract with another company and then leaves?
Did she throw your belt in the trash?
No, she didn't throw the belt in the trash, but she basically, I had to vacate the championship. So after all of that build-up, I pick her to end a year-long title reign. 3 days after she wins a fucking championship, she leaves. So for making me a victim of your systematic course of treachery and deception, Kana, I am turning heel on you. Now, I know it doesn't have anything to do with the real person because this is just a character in a fucking video game, but every single time that I see that name, I just get so pissed off. So that's why I'm turning heel on you. So, WWE, you better watch out because she's shady. But, yeah, that's it for this episode of PWF Empire Live. Thank you guys for tuning in. The next time you see us, we're going to be here Monday night after a Raw, and we're going to be delivering our preview of Night of Champions. Until then, peace out.